Even though this problem might look complicated, it's not as bad as it looks. So here you can see we have two terms divided by 4 greater than -2. I'm just going to put parentheses around this, and I'm going to multiply this by 1 because, look, 1 times this amount does not change the value when you multiply by 1. It's still the same value. And notice that now I made a fraction, 1 over 4. This 1 and 4 is what we're going to pay attention to here. So let me just highlight that. So this 1 and the 4, that fraction, I'm going to multiply both sides of this. So I'm going to multiply this by 4 over 1 because I want you to see what's going to happen. And 4 over 1, keep in mind, that's the reciprocal of this, 1 over 4. And since I multiplied this side by 4 over 1, I'm going to do the same thing on this side as well. Multiply by 4 over 1. And notice that's not a fraction. And I'm going to make it into a fraction by putting it over 1 because 2 divided by 1 is still 2. I don't change the value by putting it over 1. I just want it to look like a fraction like this one. So when I simplify and multiply, it makes it easier to know what has to go together. So now back to this side, you notice that I said let's make this into a 1, right? We're going to multiply by the reciprocal. Now I want you to see what's going to happen. We're going to get in the numerator, 4 times 1 is going to be 4, and then we have times m plus 3. And then in the denominator, we get 1 times 4, which is 4. And bring down my inequality sign. And then over here, I'm just going to multiply across. -2 times 4 is -8. So multiply the numerators together. And then multiply across in the bottom. The denominators, 1 times 1 is 1. And now, if you look over here, notice we get 4 divided by 4, which we already know. 4 divided by 4 is going to be reduced to 1 and 1. And you can see we're going to be left with this term here, the m plus 3. So I'm going to bring that down. And I don't need the parentheses anymore because you can see it's 1 times that is just going to give me back this. Bring down my greater than sign and then simplify that. I get -8. And now the next step to solve for m, I just got to cancel out this term here by making a 0 pair. So 3 positives is going to cancel out with 3 negatives. And I'm going to do the same thing on this side to balance it out, just like we do in equations when we solve an equation. And the last step is just to simplify. 3 positives combined with 3 negatives make a 0 pair. Bring down my m. Bring down the greater than sign. And then 8 negatives and 3 negatives, when you combine that, you're going to get 11 negatives all together. And that would be my solution set. All numbers bigger than -11 will be a solution to this inequality up here. All that is left to do is to graph it. So I'm going to graph, put -11 in the middle. I'll put a number afterwards and before. And notice that numbers always get bigger when you're looking at negatives. Going to the left, -11, -12, right? They get bigger in a negative manner. And then as you get closer to 0, it starts to go down because you're getting closer and closer to 0. Now for this, we want solutions that are bigger than that. So we're not including it. And then numbers bigger than -11 always go to the right on the number line to get bigger. So I would just shade this side. And that lets me know that any numbers that I pick on this side of the inequality sign will be solutions to this up here. So if I were to erase all that work I did, so this inequality here, any number I pick from that solution set, substituted for m, add 3 and divide by 2, when I simplify it, it's going to come out to be a number bigger than -2. And if I pick a number on this side where it's not shaded in, those are not going to work. In other words, if I were to pick -12, and if I were to substitute it into this inequality for m and simplify it, I'm going to get a number that is actually smaller than -2. So it won't work. It's going to be false.